What do I keep telling you is the most dangerous investment of all? That's right, cash in the bank. If you've ignored me so far, watch this and start worrying. Hello, my name's Graham Rowan, the renegade investor cutting through the crap to tell you what's really happening in the world of wealth creation and wealth protection. In this episode of Investment University, I want to explain the thorny subject of fractional reserve banking and why it's been such a big factor in the mess that the banks have got us into. Here's the basic principle of fractional reserve banking. I'm the bank. You deposit £100 and I give you a current account with a generous rate of interest such as 0.1%. I then lend £90 of the money you've deposited to Dodgy Don's Donuts. He opens a new business account with me and deposits the £90. I've got another £90 on deposit now, so I lend £81 to Fly-By-Night Freddy's Fish Farm. He also opens a new account with me, so I've now got another £81 on deposit. And so it goes on. I keep lending 90% of the funds people deposit so that 10% is kept back to meet what the Bank of England tells me is my capital adequacy ratio. If you're not already in a coma, you may have realized one important fact. There was only ever one real deposit of a real 100 smackaroonies. But I've now lent something like £1,000 to all the Dodgy Dons and Fly-By-Night Freddies. If you came back and asked for your original £100 to be returned, I may not have enough cash to repay you. What we're really doing here is creating money from thin air. In a full reserve banking system, I could only lend out the £100 you first gave me. Now that's not going to make enough to pay my Ferrari and my gentleman's farm with grouse shooting and salmon fishing in Scotland, is it? So by converting your deposit into lots of loans and perpetuating that 90% relending, I can stretch your £100 to infinity and back. All I have to hope and pray is that there aren't too many of you wanting all your cash out at once. That's what's called a run on the banks, as we saw all too clearly in the very recent past with Northern Rock. Which brings us to a really important point that many people still don't realize. When you deposit money in a bank, it's no longer your money, it's the bank's. You become a liability on their balance sheet, and if they go under because they've made too many bad loans, your money disappears with the bank. Much is made of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, which covers up to £85,000 of savings in any bank account. But there's only £4 billion in the whole scheme, so the failure of any major bank would leave its investors high and dry. The recent revelation that Barclays needs to raise billions of pounds of new capital to shore up its balance sheet tells you that things are not as stable as the powers that be would have us believe. Fractional reserve banking is a way of increasing the money supply, which could be seen as helpful for economic growth, but it also increases the risk of bank failures as they work on wafer-thin reserves. As we saw in Cyprus and not long ago in Argentina, we can't rely on politicians to act in a way that puts their citizens' needs ahead of the vested interests of the banks or the government. They'll introduce capital controls in an instant, limiting what you could withdraw at a hole in the wall and stopping you from sending money abroad. We now have two euros, a Cypriot one that's subject to exchange controls, and the rest of the Eurozone which isn't. If you're as ancient as I am, you'll remember when we could only take £50 out of the country when we went on our package holidays abroad. Don't rule out the return of those kind of restrictions. Most of all, think carefully about how much money you keep in the bank. When bank runs happen, events move so quickly you'll have no time to plan. With the pathetic rates of interest on offer, I judge the downside risks as too great to accept. When you combine fractional reserve banking with fiat currencies that are not backed by anything but the government say so, the whole system is a house of cards relying on everyone's confidence in it. As soon as something threatens that confidence, the whole edifice can come tumbling down in a single day. Make sure that your affairs are arranged in such a way that a run on the banks would not be fatal to your personal wealth. As I keep saying, be careful out there. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen and you want to see more, why not click here to subscribe? And if you're one of those saddos that spends your life playing with all that social stuff, why not like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter? See you next time.